Bonsoir. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Standing Committee on Strategies and Public Policies meeting. This usually in a meeting where we hear presentations from different groups or staff, and there are no decisions made this evening. So, without further ado, I would invite my first guest, Monsieur Béliveau, to come forward. Monsieur Béliveau, always a pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council and members of the administration. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. The only thing that I regret is when you said that you will not be making any decisions. I would have liked to have one, but I guess I'll have to wait. Yes, one forgets quickly. Yes, and probably for the better. So, Mr. Mayor, it's on behalf of big brothers, big sisters from Moncton, now in the New-Brunswick Southeast, because we do give services to people who are outside of the three communities. I am part of the board now, and it's been 5 years. The agency has been in Moncton close to 5 years. It was an organization at the beginning of the 1970s, which this year is going to celebrate their 100th anniversary. Everything was started by a judge in the city of New York. Noticed that a few youth was before him, delinquents, and the main reason they were there is that they had no adult direction. So they realized that something similar had to be done, and they picked up on it, and they created Big Brothers and Big Sisters. At the time, it was Big Brothers, Little Brothers. It was nothing else. Over the years, obviously, we've added the Big Sisters, also, obviously, Little Sisters. So tonight I am before you to give you an idea of what the agency is, what it is doing, what it wants to do, what are its main challenges. The first objective of the organization is to give the opportunity either to a young girl or young boy the opportunity to have the accompaniment of an adult. There are certain situations where a big brother has a small brother and a big sister has a small sister, and most of the time it's the child or the boy or the girl is from a single parent. So some boys need advice from men and girls from women. So basically it is an opportunity to obtain for the children good values and good living habits, and it's something that in single-parent houses is sometimes lacking, and it's often, as women tell us, if it was only just maybe 2 or 3 times a week, I could get relief. So the way it's done, there's a selection according to interests. So a little kid who's really sports-minded will find someone who is interested in sports. The type of programs, one of the things that is the brand, is the accompaniment. It's a one-on-one, the pairing. But over the years, pairing basically was a service. Now we do mentoring in schools. We accompany youth with bigger families, and as I mentioned, mentoring in school and with groups out of school also, but that's mostly on the academic side. Volunteers who are trained, and to have the youth understand the importance of education and to encourage them to continue in school. By the way, the clientele are aged from 8 to 16 years old. After 16, if they stay, it's because they want. Actually, some children stay till the end of secondary school. There was an example of a big brother with a smaller one up to 18, and now the little brother is now 40 years old, and he has children, and he's still part of the broader family. It's not something that one forgets, even if officially it's finished. I mentioned that the majority of our staff, outside of our volunteers, is basically the challenge. It's the accompaniment to one-on-one, and we've just realized that it's because there's a lack of awareness or information in general within the university. So we would need a communication strategy, and it's partly the reason why we are going to see different municipalities of the region that we're just serving, so that this could be spread out. We're going to be doing this over the next couple of months to make sure that municipalities are aware of the role that we play. So obviously we're going to emphasize this specifically. Just to tell you, a couple of years ago, there was a group that made a study to see what the results or the consequences were for each dollar that was invested with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and they evaluated the benefits that could be created with this $1 and the savings. Also, concerning the social expenses, for example, if a younger one is not going down the right way, then they're in the system, they go see the court, and that just begins a cycle that is going to be troubling. So we're talking about a ratio of $1 for a saving of 16. And it's something that we should know when we look at the services that are given or that the community wants to give to their residents. It's important to recognize that the organization is going to be reduced the amount of costs for the municipalities. So if we could at least reduce it, it's something that would be beneficial for municipalities. So tonight, we're here wanting to, we know that it's going to take 2-3 years with the influence of a responsible adult with a youth. And I have to say that it's not all youth have problems that require the services of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, but some of them it is. So, but it does take 2, 3, 4 years to see a change. We're talking about 2 to 4 hours a week. The majority of the individuals who are on a one-to-one basis offer more, but the benefits obviously are therefore enhanced. But it does take 2, 3, 4 years for someone to say, okay, I can see a difference in the behavior of the youth. He is less likely to get in trouble, etc., etc. And the schools tell us the same thing, because there's a definite link with school districts and school principals, and by themselves, they are clients. They say themselves, if we could have somebody to help guide this child or that child. So we see ourselves in the need of committing ourselves for 2, 3, 4 years. So it's the type of funding that we would be looking for. So it would be a request for a period of 3 to 5 years that would give us time to make sure that well, I'm going to tell you what the amount is, but I'm sure that you've seen it in the presentation that I had sent to you previously. We're requesting $10,000. So I have a slight idea as to what to do. So now we'll have to make sure that we understand what the municipal policies are that will be able to help us structure that'll give us really the strong possibility to do our work. So, if I'm not wrong, it has to be within the year. So the municipality will be examining this, and hopefully it'll be considering this in a positive sense. I also indicated, and I'll just tell you, just for your information, and I will permit myself to main the statistics, because we gave the report for April. It'll give you at least an overview of what the level of participation is currently at the agency. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Statistics maybe in terms of participation, maybe specifically the commitment from the people of Dieppe in the file. Yeah, concerning what the percentage of youth to whom the agency is giving services, I would figure it's 15%. I know that there are volunteers who live here in Dieppe. Two of them were part of the board. Statistics, specific, very precise statistics, we wouldn't really want to reveal them, because there's a question of confidentiality that we have to respect. But when I mentioned the benefits that are generated by community support, they gave us the figures that I gave you, that for $1 that is invested makes a savings of $16, because there are costs that are associated to health, social development. So I can give you an idea. The BS, well, it's not BS, it's big sister, big brother, little brother, big brother, little sister. ISM is in school mentoring. It's a way to tell you that there are some youth that are on waiting lists, and this is where we have to work. We have 26 who are waiting. They're waiting. Since a couple of years, some big sisters say, listen, if I can't get a little sister, I'll take a little boy, a little brother. And what is even more popular now, but the emphasis is always to make sure that people are aware that we're looking for, it's big couples with or without children. I mean, if a big couple can say, okay, we can help a teen, 15, 16, or 17-year-old, or 14, 15, 16-year-old would be good. So big group, big couples, big families. So there are different surveys, and that's basically part of a more active promotion. It's in screening. That means that they are currently being evaluated. But we obviously accept big sisters, but big brothers, they're about as rare as teeth on hens, and basically there are a lot of young ones who are waiting for a big brother. I think one child had waited 3.5 years for a big brother. There was no promise we didn't tell him that he was going to have a mentor within 2 or 3 weeks. But so in certain cases, it's not easy to make sure that they remain. So that gives you an idea. So after that, I'd be happy to answer questions. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few questions and one comment. I'm happy that you're doing work with the schools. I think that the work that is being done by volunteers with children, with youth, is worth much, much more than the Ritalin. That's one of your good works. I was wondering, concerning the statistics, how many children from Dieppe are benefiting from the program? We are estimating approximately 15%, and here it's sometimes difficult. Parents sometimes are separated, and the child has two addresses. So, what address do you use as the main one? So these are statistics that are very delicate for basically this reason. So we can't identify them. They are receiving a service. They can receive it from the school, but as you mentioned, Mr. Counselor, but also from social development, which sends us people's names for mentoring. Now, how many big brothers, big sisters? I would say it's approximately 20%. There are a few people still. It's not a file, but that's just what the staff has told me. We estimate in a general way that there are 15 or 20% that comes from Dieppe. And there's a proportion from Riverview, but basically a good part from Moncton, but also from outside. I mean, we're up to Bouctouche. There's a youth who find in Bouctouche who found a big brother in Bouctouche, and it was not. I mean, it was then. I figure that all your volunteers go through the security checks, yes, and a mandatory training. Approximately 15 hours of training before they're told that you are now a big brother in waiting. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Monsieur. Hello, Monsieur Béliveau. Three things to facilitate decision making. On the board, have you also put in requests to the two other municipalities? Yes. And what was the responses? Moncton is going to be asked for $25,000, and Riverview $7,500. Also, would we have access to the operating budget in order to help us for the decision? Yes, it could be done, just the same as the list of the board members also. We can send that to you. Thank you. Thank you, Monsieur Alain. Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi. I'm looking at the back of this where you have the lines. I see for January, February, March 2019, you're above 100 in March. 100 in the three municipalities. It's all the population that we serve. It includes everything. Everything means what exactly? If you look at the children in 17, different colors in 18, and now we're in 19. 19, it's just 3 months, but you can see that up to now we've served approximately very strong percentage in 3 months compared to the previous years. Yeah, I see that it's increased since 2018. So the 3 last years, it's been increasing each year. Yeah, it increases every year since the creation of the agency. The first year, there were 3 matches. It never went down. So the reason, according to you, is why has it increased? Is it the population that has increased, or is the dire condition of humans has increased? The agency, the school district is aware of what we offer, the schools. We've contacted many school principals, so they know us. One of them told us, I have my number on your speed dial. So if ever I think that I need something, I'll have it right under my fingertips. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madame Arsenault. Somebody else? No? Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Monsieur Béliveau. And secondly, we will make sure that somebody from staff will follow this up with you. If you could leave maybe your contact numbers. We're talking about the 2020 budget, so we'll have ample time if we have more questions to ask them to you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is presentation on policy on temporary commemorative features in the city of Dieppe. Mr. Simard. Thank you very much. Topic that's maybe a little sensitive sometimes. That car driver is struck and dies on the streets, and sometimes the family installs commemorative features along the road on land that belongs to the municipality. So how do we manage this? There are three ways to manage this. Do nothing. There are no rules that basically put this in organize this. So there's basically free management for the managers that we are. The disadvantages is that we could find ourselves stuck between the friends and family of the deceased and also the people who see close by their properties or their home commemorative features. Obviously, it's a very difficult situation to manage for the city or municipality managers. It's a delicate situation. We want to do well. We want to do good and satisfy as many people as we can, as we want, but often it's very difficult. Now, the second way of managing this is to permit no features whatsoever. As soon as something is set up like this, we would send our staff, we pick everything up, and we get rid of it, or we give it to the family if it's possible. Concerning the municipality managers, that's easy. I would say that that would be the advantage. Now, the disadvantage is that it might make us look insensitive. So that's the second way. The third way is to set up a system, a framework, and this is what I'm proposing here with the policy. The advantages of a framework is that it would give the opportunity to everyone, the family, the ends, the residents who live close by, to the loved ones of that person, that everybody would be knowledgeable on what the rules are, how to do it. It also gives the opportunity to the municipality to intervene when there are problems, when there are solutions to be found, because these features can obviously cause some inconvenience. So it's important to intervene on a security level, on wellness level for the neighborhood. It's also maybe also a question of identifying a certain lapse of time during which it will be allowed, and it'll give the opportunity to people, to the managers of the municipality, a way of intervening with these people. So it is this third way that we are suggesting to use. We thought, first of all, of going with a bylaw, but we understand what with a bylaw there could be fines imposed, and it's not something that we want to do. On the contrary, we want to do something that's going to facilitate life for everyone, the loved ones of the deceased, and the people who live in the region. So the policy A40, I believe that it would be something that we could set up. I mean, this situation does not occur very often. I mean, sometimes we see flowers that appear all of a sudden on the guardrails or things like that. So that's a possibility, and it happens sometimes. So quickly, if you read the policy, we have section 1, we have a definition. What is a temporary feature? Why temporary? Because, well, we see that they are permitted for a maximum of 60 days. It may seem long, it may seem short. It's a choice that we've made. I can say that we've done research on what is being done elsewhere, and well, we're talking about cities that have more means than the city of Dieppe, a larger population, but there are all sorts of programs that exist elsewhere. For example, in Calgary, there are permits for a period of 12 months in certain places where people can install a commemorative plaque, which would be given by the municipality at a fairly high cost. We're talking about Memorial Park bench program. We can install benches, 4,200 tables or picnic tables, $4,900. We're talking about commemorative steel bands around lamp posts that could be available. We're talking about trees being planted. There exists all sorts of possibilities. We're talking about signs like in Ottawa that permit signs along roads where there was the accident. So we're talking about 24 inches by 35 inches. In Hampton, the planning service there needs to get a permit that is valid for 90 days. So as you see, there are different things that exist elsewhere in Canada, and I'm coming back to my proposal. This is what I'm proposing. It's basically to get comments, feedback. So we recognize, we would be recognizing the right to people, the installation on our land, the municipality land, to install a commemorative feature that would be temporary for a day of 60 days maximum. And there are criteria that we'll be establishing. It has to be installed as close as possible to the site where the accident was. We don't want people to set these things up anywhere. It has to be within the year of the deceased. In other words, in order not to make problems, to create problems for municipal infrastructure and structure, and also safety of pedestrians, cyclists, and cars. We also figure that the people who will be regrouping in these places have to respect the laws, the bylaws, and all sorts of regulations of all sorts. Not make any noise, not bother people, not to leave any trash, things like that. We want people to act correctly. technically the people are not going to be on their own land, so they cannot do just anything. So this is what we see. And then at the end of 60 days, if the people haven't taken the features away, then the municipality will do it, and the municipality, therefore, well, usually we know the people, so we'll contact the family or the loved ones, and we'll give them the features that would have been picked up on the site. And the city can also, in all cases where the rules had not been respected, we can get rid of the features immediately. So there will be no fines. That's why we're not working by law, but we do still have a certain power, the power to eliminate those things, and if people do not act according to the rules or the regulations.
So this is a minimum, and that's what I propose as a policy. So I ask for your comments or any questions. It's a project, and we can improve upon it or amend it or forget it as well. So I'm ready to hear your comments. Thank you, Mr. Small. Questions from councillors? Mr. Alain. Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Simard, what is the process? The public process? I think this policy is balanced. It's not easy, but at least we have it on paper, and we still have to respect people. But the present process, what's the process to deal with people? At that committee for this policy, it's a good way to get comments from people. I invite all comments. And as well, we are going to establish this policy, and people are already concerned by it. And they know that it's presented this evening, so we'll contact them and ask for the comments. I can give them to you at a future meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Simard, you mentioned compassion. Is this towards the family or the residents that live nearby? I mean, it goes both ways. I don't know if we should have a problem with this if we allow this. I'm against this policy, but perhaps we could make some accommodations. If we want that everybody be satisfied, perhaps we could ask the residents nearby if they accept that the family install this type of feature. Perhaps it would cause them pain as well. It might not be a good idea. And with these features and the people that will come there, how many people could gather at one time? Can we control that? Perhaps 40 or 50 people could gather for a ceremony? We don't know. My third question is, will those people need a permit? I may answer? You can answer now or think about it. We could always debate it if you wish. We could answer to concerns Have you thought about that before? For the permit, we analyze that situation. We don't want a structure that would be very difficult. People don't ask questions, they just act, and they come on the side of the road and they install something without asking permission. So we need rules that are practical, that we can put into execution. For that reason, we tried to make it so we would power to remove these features, and it's serious for those people who do install them. They're very much attached to this. It has a value. It's precious for them. If they know that we will remove them, it will incite them to behave properly. And for the number of people that would come, we don't know. We can't control that. But the people will have at least to respect rules. And there are important points that you've mentioned, and we'll think about it. And I'll come back to you with options in the future. Thank you. Anyone else? Madame Le Boutier. Thank you, Your Worship. I recognize that these are exceptional circumstances. The policy we have before us should be studied, and our citizens also should be able to take position on the best solution possible. Thank you. Councillor Arsenault. Thank you, Your Worship. It's a delicate situation. If we have a death in the family and it's in front of our house, on the side of the road, it's even doubly delicate. Personally, I wouldn't want any commemorative features in front of my house or in front of my house on municipal land. It would be continual before my eyes. It would be like turning the knife in my back. It would be painful because it would be a family member, but every day I would have to face this. Personally, I would prefer go to the cemetery and install commemorative features. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Thibodeau, on what he has mentioned. It's a very difficult situation. It's touching, but I wouldn't want to see this every day, like I didn't want it when it happened to my own family. Thank you. There's nobody else that wants to speak before I do. Of course, it's difficult for the city. It would be better to have some framework rather than none at all. There's the debate in principle, because right now we have no framework. We have this type of situation twice a year. On an average, we have accidents on the marsh, on the roads, people die. And of course, within the family, if it happens in front of your house, you don't want to see it, and they control this situation, of course. Will they want commemorative features in front of their house? No, we understand that. But when it's somebody else, It's not easy, and I think council will have to answer the following question. If we let people the freedom and have absolutely no control over it, could stay there for weeks and weeks. You see it on Highway 15. They're there for months and even years. Somebody will go and replace a cross. A framework at least can become part of the decor. We can control that easily. Council will decide after a lot of discussion, but that's how I see it. Either we have a framework or not. If not, we'll have to live with that as well. Where's the balance? If nobody else, thank you for the presentation and for the discussion, and we'll come back on this subject a little later, Mr. Manasso. If I may, I understood that you wish that we ask questions to people to get their comments on the policy, or shall we meet the people that contacted us? Those are two different steps that we can take. Mr. Alain? His Worship says that we could have a certain control with a framework. We should speak to both groups. It's evolution as well. We see that everywhere in the world. People are more open with emotions, and evolution to take this death, and some people in North America are more open. I would like a framework and a policy, and I think we should speak to the most people as possible, so it would be easier for us to take a decision. That's how I see it. Yes, the more comments that we receive, it will help us to make a decision. Thank you. And Mr. Richard. Who is at the podium? He's going to talk about mini park and ride lots, a pilot project. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors. Yes, I'm here for the next three subjects, and I'll try to be quick. You all know that our sustainable public transportation that was presented in spring 2015. We have a report that has a lot of strategies and management of transportation. So firstly, I want to talk to you about ride and park and ride parks. So what is it? It's a place, it's a park and ride where we have parking for cars to allow people to not go to the downtown, but to take other means of transportation. It happens in big cities. They take the tramway and others. So what we propose for Dieppe as a pilot project, we want 2 mini parking rides with 3 to 5 spaces each near Agiel Center and Aquatic Street. These would be spaces well identified with signs between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. And that would be from Monday to Friday at Centre Agile Leblanc. There are activities on weekends. So we would have to have registration for people who want to use these, a sticker or something visible inside the car. So these next three slides are places where we could possibly put them. These are just examples. The first is AGL Center. You see the parking lot here, and on the south we have Melançon Street. So the green space could be designated for these spaces. It's near the trail that you can see on the right and the crosswalk. And the people could cross and go to the bus stop, which is just in the other side of the street of the green space. Another example is on Aquatic Street. You see the building. This is the IGA. And north is Dieppe Boulevard. And where we see green, there's parking already on Aquatic Street. So this is land that belongs to the city that could be used for this kind of project. Thirdly, it was recommended by citizens is in front of Saint-Arsène Church. So you can see Amiro Street here, perpendicular Melançon Street. The space you can see here, a challenge here is that it does not belong to the city, so we would need an agreement with the owners. So this could be interesting in this area. So the benefits for the city, is so to keep cars away from the downtown, and you could reduce cars on the streets. And it would reduce greenhouse gases. We have sustainable development. So if we reduce the number of cars, it's a good way. And another thing is people who would like to use this park and ride could just take the bus. The buses would be busier. And our goal and another benefit would be that if we go ahead with it, it would be positive. It would be seen as a positive thing by the community. It would show our leadership on these types of initiatives. As well, it's a concrete solution for this type of park and ride. To eliminate people from taking their vehicle alone. And people who would want to use these spaces to park, if they have to go to Moncton, for example, when there's parking that you have to pay for, because these parking spaces would be free. And so if they take their car fewer kilometers per week, it would cost less for gas. And gas is increasing these past few weeks. And for those people who take the bus, there's Wi-Fi. You could be very productive in a bus. So that's another benefit for people. They just park, and then the bus takes them 10 or 15 minutes away to their meetings. And then there's car sharing, carpooling if they wish. They could take these spaces. One car could take the space, and they could take one car rather than two. So that's another benefit. And citizens, this would be benefits for citizens. They could go with their colleagues, their work colleagues, and we could probably create more relationships with our citizens as well. So how would it work? We could adjust for the number of spaces, and we could have comments of the users that would be registered, see if they like it or not. And we could probably improve. And we have statistics with the riders on the bus. If statistics show us that we have more people taking the bus at these places, we could see that it would be a good return on our revenues. So this is our project, and for the next steps, depending on your comments tonight, is to come back with a formal recommendation and to go ahead with this park and ride. And we would like to have feedback from people as well, get more details before we finalize the project. And then we'll do promotion and distribute passes so that we can create these spaces. And we would start in September with school, so to help people to change their habits and try something new. So those are the steps that we would propose to you. Are there any questions? No questions? It's pretty clear. Oh, there is a question from Councillor Alain. It's an interesting subject, and you see it in rural areas. It works well. If you go to Shediac on Highway 15 and 11, you can see cars parked on the side of the highway. In the parking spaces, is 4 or 5 enough? If there's 5 cars, nobody else can go. Is there a section where we could add more spaces? Like at the arena, for instance? Or if there's a funeral at the church, for example? If it catches on, how could we go? That would be a good problem. We would adjust at the Center Arthur Gilles Leblanc, the other side of Rotary Park. There's a lot of parking. Near the ballparks, they're not always used except for during the games. So if we ever had a request, we could adjust quickly enough. And of course, on each side of Arthur Gilles Leblanc, we own land up to Centrale, and the other side too, up to the cemetery, that whole section. So there's potential, of course. Mr. Thibodeau, I have a question. I'm fearful that we won't have enough parking spaces, but it could be popular with the prices of gas increasing. If people go to Moncton, for sure. It's a great idea, and I think that is going to work well. I think that we could look at the east side of the trail on Melançon Street. There's land there that's not being used. That here we have an asphalt surface. If we get to the point that we need more, that'd be a place that would be much more easy to manage. I think this is going to succeed. We don't need too much success, though. Anybody else? No? So we'll continue with the next presentation. Carpooling. We're going to do carpooling now. It's in the same vein, Your Worship. This is an initiative, Destination 2040, is a strategy. So you remember about a year ago we had an analysis of needs of the immigrant population and the community college. And we had an initiative recommendation to look at carpooling for the students. They thought it would be important at NBCC. So why carpooling? Because there's an alternative mode of transportation for residents, if you have a car or not. It reduces the cars that are being driven by one person only. It could be, even if we have electrical cars, we've tried a lot of things, and if we start gradually, it will work long term. So we want to reduce greenhouse gases, and we want to manage the traffic on the streets. With the increase of the population and the number of cars, there's much more congestion, and we want to manage it with different strategies. So this is one of them. Of course, for the city of Dieppe, we want to reduce the parking, whether it be downtown here or elsewhere, at least on the short term. What we propose is a web platform that has worked. A lot of cities in Quebec do this. They're being sustainable in their development, and since 2005, they offer a web platform that is personalized and helps residents to access it freely to see what kind of routes that they could take. So we register with an email address or a Facebook account. It's bilingual, and there's twinning as well, and you can communicate directly with the driver if you want to go less than 100 kilometers. So this platform exists elsewhere in Quebec, Canada, and the United States. And you can find rides for more than 100 kilometers, but we're looking at less. More than 100 kilometers is a little bit more complex, but for less than 100 kilometers, it's easy. So we would have emails that could send notices to people on the site, and we could have evaluation of the clientele and statistics like any other platform. And as well, I wanted to show you what it would look like on the web platform. So you see here it's Sainte-Julie. This is the platform. So if we would see that in Dieppe, it would be called Park and Ride Dieppe. And there's a lot of information that you can find. So if you click to see a search, for example, I'm doing Saint-Julie to Candiac, and you can see the names of people, all the trips that are offered, and in some cases, people offer a cost. This is visual. I wanted to show you. I have a link to your documents, but I wanted to show you. What we recommend for this platform at parkandride.ca, what is used in Quebec are the employers, principally, or people who are doing the carpooling would be privileged. For example, if in Dieppe we could be a member, we could offer parking spaces near City Hall, so we could save at least one parking spot. So that would be recommended. And if the college was a partner as well, they could offer a parking space as well. And some cities offer financial incentives. In some cities, it costs a lot of money to park, so they go as far as giving them money. And in some cases, cities are looking for private and public partners to help finance the platform, or at least to promote it. So financially, I was surprised. It doesn't cost a lot of money to have something like this for the municipality. We're talking about $4,000 to create it. For 24 months, it would cost $12,000. And it's not a lot of money for this type of infrastructure that is offered to all our residents for carpooling. And if you look at the savings we could have and the benefits for certain people that could find rides, then I think we could get back those $12,000 quickly. So to find public and private partners, that's what we propose if the council decides. We have measures, the number of residents that are registered, the trips, and the twinning of people so that it would work well. And we would use comments of the users. They would give us their feedback to see if it works well or not. And then we would have parking in this program, that we would have statistics. The park and ride would come into that.
So once again, next steps. Tonight we're hoping to get your comments. Do we go forward? And then we'll come back with an official recommendation on the 13th of May, possibly to go forward with this project. We're not sure exactly how long it would take to set up, but we're aiming maybe for September or next year. That hasn't been determined yet, but it was to present the concept to you tonight to get the comments. Thank you. Comments from members of council? I'm repeating myself. Comments from members of council? Madame Le Boutillier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Comment. Excellent initiative. I'd like to have a little more statistics. Maybe not statistics, but you mentioned that there were quite a few municipalities that have been using this app. And we're talking about $12,000. It's the minimum. I mean, we've had a presentation tonight for the youth, so investment, what would be the return? Something similar for the municipality of Dieppe, how it works. But yes, the more we can do to reduce the GHGs, I'm very favorable, yes. If statistically speaking it could be positive. Yeah, we can come back with you. I know I've had discussions with them. There are no municipality outside of New-Brunswick that uses this platform. So other municipalities in Quebec, in Ontario, but I don't think it's been used in New-Brunswick. Monsieur Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very nice initiative. The $4,000 of implementation costs, maybe I missed something. What is it exactly for? Well, it's to put the platform online, to have it properly configured online, etc. Thank you. Saint-Julie, did they not have the bus also? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, they have a free bus. municipality that is very avant-garde. It's very lively, very... Monsieur Thibodeau, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, very nice initiative, and I think that the municipality, we should maybe start by putting parking reserved for carpooling, and then look for partners, maybe Champlain, Mathieu Martin, community colleges, Irving, TD. So we could find partners like that. That would save a lot concerning the greenhouse gases. I mean, people can carpool and so. Yes, good suggestions. Thanks, Monsieur Richard. No, I said there were good suggestions. We've taken note of this. Okay, so if there are no other questions, thank you for your presentation. Definitely very nicely put propositions. It's a good idea to do this like the municipality of Saint-Julie. Okay, you've got a third topic, and this is my last one. It's the public transport. Well, we won't need it if carpooling works. We won't need any public transport. Well, there's a connection. It's a mix. So tonight, it's an update on our 93A pilot project, because the decision is going to be made soon on this project. Briefly, historically, there were scenarios that presented to Council on the 15th of October. On the 13th of November, the Council decided to go forward with a pilot project with a bus towards Lakeburn. The budget was adjusted later to permit the pilot projects from 13 to 18 weeks. There was a decision to extend because it was during the winter. We wanted a little more time to evaluate, so it's extended till the 12th of July, which is the second quarter of Kodiak. That's the end of that project. We have to remember also with the shuttle, during the operation of 93A, there's no shuttle that operated during that time. And these are the periods on the week from Monday to Friday at high volume time, in the morning and in the afternoon. So there's also, during those times, there's a reduction of the service during the high volume points. No transport from Barnes to the east limit because the bus goes through Lakeburn, but people who are Lakeburn Lumber and all that have no service during the high volume times during the week. There was also in our proposal for scenarios, we had estimated there was a reduction of the request for trips because the return of the bus, then the shuttle doesn't work. We figured that there would be fewer trips. We also predicted that there would be a reduction of the budget to compensate for the project. So the budgetary background, the budget originally was $20,000. Council added $25,000 for the extension. The initial cost of the budget was estimated at approximately $18,000. That's not the total cost. That's the net estimated cost. The total cost is approximately $31,000, less the savings of $13,000, so that for 6 weeks we double the amount, and this is what you have here. On the other hand, the current price cost of 6 weeks was $56,000, and the main reason is that we didn't do any savings, the ones that we had foreseen with the shuttle. What we did see was transfers from people from the fixed shuttle to the on-demand shuttle, and this is where we weren't able to lower the number of trips. So the calendar to come, we know it's fairly quick, but this is a 6-month pilot project. On the 13th of May, we have to tell Kodiak Transport if we continue with the shuttle or do we go with something else. Because the 12th of July is the end of the second quarter, so they have planning that they have to do. And this is why we want to come back to see you at least a couple of weeks beforehand to give you the opportunity to digest the information before making decisions. So the 13th of May, we'll be coming back with a recommendation. And then I continue the presentation with some scenarios. But before that, we have statistics of 93A. We worked with the Kodiak Transport, which gives us statistics. So the first statistic is that their statistics that you see here represents the use of the general route on 30 departures over the week, 5 days, except for the 23rd and 25th. It's 3 days instead of 5. So these statistics basically are being maintained. It's 4.6, 5.6, 5.7 passengers per trip. Afterwards, we asked Kodiak to give us more details, the portion between Lakeburn that wasn't served by 93. Just to bring you back, hoping I didn't lose you, the bus 93 that starts on Champlain, goes to the industrial park, but then turns on the right on Boulevard Dieppe, turn once again on Chartersville. That's the 93 as we know it. We had a shuttle that started at IGA Co-op that went on Dieppe Boulevard to go to the Domaine du Ruisseau Park. I didn't make a mistake, Domaine du Ruisseau, and then that went afterwards on Chartersville to go to Lakeburn and even to the east limit of Dieppe, and that came back to pick those people up to drop them at IGA to be able to transfer with the other. What we did by adding 93A, we added another bus that really made things better, the frequency on Champlain. So there was a 93 that started, and then 15 or 20 minutes later, there was a 93A that did the same route on Champlain, or almost the same, not exactly the same, but it was on the Champlain. But instead of turning right on Dieppe Boulevard, continued all the way to, I think it's Barnes. Anyway, it went through Lakeburn, come around, go to the park on Chartersville, in the park Domaine du Ruisseau, to come back on Dieppe Boulevard, at the intersection of Dieppe and Boulevard and Champlain, and then turn left to go to CF Champlain. So the difference between 93 and 93A was essentially the sector above or beyond the Dieppe towards the east. So what we wanted to do was to ask Kodiak Transport, say, yes, we have 172 or 5.7 passengers per trip. How many of these passengers are in reality people who are using the trip in the sector over there? Because this is why we had set up 93A. So what we saw here in the second week that we did statistics, there are 172 people coming onto the board, which is 5.7 passengers per trip. So it was maintained from the 4th to the 8th of February. There was a total of 20 people who came on and 30 people who went off in that specific zone. When I talk about the zone, I don't know if you're following me, it's the zoning of the Lakeburn sector. We're not talking about the other side over here. It's beyond Dieppe Boulevard. We have 29 people came on and 34 that went off during that whole week, for a total of a maximum 4 people coming on the zone during the same trip, once on a possibility of 30. And 15 times out of a possibility of 30, there were no people got onto the bus. This is not drastic, because we have to think that half of the trips are mostly in the morning. You pick the people up, and the people in the afternoon, you drop them off. So there's always half of the trip that there are fewer people. So there was a maximum of 4 people who came down, who left the bus, out of a possibility of 30 people. The third count, we observed a considerable increase in the use But there's a maximum of 6 people climbing on in the specified zone during one same trip. In other words, on one same trip in that sector, there was a maximum of 6 people who came onto the bus, and that was once on a total of 30 possibilities, 30 trips during the week. 8 times out of 30, there were no people who were picked up. So it's an increase. Right now, 8. And there was 8 people who left the bus in the zone. We know that the once out of 30 possibilities, 5 times out of 30, there were no clients that were picked up. So we see there's a net increase of the amounts of people with these figures. I don't want to lose you with figures, but it's just to give you a context. The statistics of 93A. Here you'll see the customers who are going to Champlain Place, to Dieppe Boulevard. So not necessarily the ones who are on the other sector, the statistics that I've just shown you. So we notice that there's an interesting use, and here are the figures. During the week of the 18th to the 22nd of March, these are statistics of people coming onto the bus and getting off the bus in the sector that does not include the Lakeburn sector. So we concluded that the frequency that we've added on the trips on Champlain Street, the result was beneficial. So what we're asking here is, the customers, have they just gone from the 93 with a departure at 8:30 in the morning to 93A that was leaving at 8? So that's what we're wondering, because we have here figures for 93A that are good. We asked the question, and what Kodiak did was that they calculated recently, the departures at 8:10 from Champlain Place, and these are the statistics that they've had. There is still good use of 93, but what Kodiak says is that it would seem the 2 routes are being used, 93 and 93A. We're going to see if the same statistics for the preceding weeks, but they're saying it's being maintained. There's not necessarily an increase or a decrease. Are there any questions on the statistics up to now? I realize it's going really into details, and maybe I've lost a couple of you, but yeah, Madame Boutillier, a question. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes. 93A, if we come back to your statistics, if I take your 4 through 8 of February, I want to confirm that the statistics that were called during the week, 29 people got on the bus at that time or during the whole day. 34 that got off the bus from the 4th of February. So on 93A, there was a total of 172 people who got on the bus, and there were 29 got on the bus and 34 that got off the bus in the zone. In the zone that's beyond the Dieppe Boulevard in the eastern south of the Lakeburn, principally basically the pilot project. Of 172, that's only 29 from Lakeburn that used the service during that week. Is that it? Yes. For the whole week, it's 29 going onto the bus. We know that there are some that are not clients of Lakebird, but some people work, so they're not necessarily residents from Lakebird, it's people who use the service. That's just for 93A during volume hours, high volume hours. There's a whole mess of other people who use the bus and go around, but they use a shuttle outside of high volume peak hours. Is that okay? Any other questions? For the shuttle on Champlain, we had no savings. We wanted to. We reduced the number of fixed trips during the peak hours, but what we realized is that there was an increase of requests for on requests outside of peak hours. Okay, so during rush hour, we had a shuttle, and the shuttle was automatically being offered at all the bus routes. When we replaced the shuttle with this, it was the bus that took the place. But outside of rush hour, starting at 9 until 3:30, there was a shuttle on request. So if somebody had to do a transfer with the bus, you could call the shuttle, say, listen, I got a transfer at 10:30. The shuttle would go pick them up and drop them off there. So we were only charged for each trip that was being used. Maybe there were 3 trips on request, but we would maybe just bill for 1 or 2. In this case, it would seem that with the statistics of the shuttle, that we had more requests we had more on requests. It seems as if they were using the on request more than they were doing before. I can't explain this more than that. So this is what we saw in the statistics. So globally, there was no reduction in the trips. There was actually an increase in trips, but unfortunately, the budget wasn't reduced. At least not for the first quarter. So I'm almost over now. The questions that we have to ask is, what do we do with 93A starting the 13th of May, the 12th of July, and what kind of level of service do we want to offer in that zone beyond the sector where we had the shuttle, and what kind of vehicle do we have to offer this? So I talked to Kodiak, and they're pleased with 93. They realize that there's an increase of trips. They like it to see things going well from Champlain. It's with the vision, and they see that the part of the leadership with all the services that we've set up. On our side, obviously, we see that there's a progression, specifically, especially during 1 month. There could be an increase in the future. We can't explain why there was a change. Is it temperature? It's better weather. Is the progression going to continue? We don't know. On the other hand, what we think is that that's why we had the shuttle 2011, 2012, we wanted to make sure to have a vehicle that had the proper capacity to do that according to the demands. So what we see now is that there's an overcapacity of a vehicle when we send a bus to a sector where there's a maximum of 4 or 6 people who are going to be coming on, getting off. A smaller vehicle could do that, like a shuttle. The other thing is that the resources that was presented in the statistics, bus costs $80, $85 an hour. The shuttle is $42 an hour. So essentially, we can double the service with a shuttle rather than with the bus. So these are facts. So that these possible scenarios that you could consider for the next couple of weeks and to start the conversation. Obviously, there's a status quo. You've seen the advantages, disadvantages. So we didn't have any budgets beyond the 6 months. Not to say that we can find money, but we'll have to fool around a little bit to find it if we want to continue the service and maybe see it progress, see more people using it. Other options? Well, we put the project, we put an end to the project on the 12th of July or a little bit sooner. We talked to Kodiak Transpo, and these are buses on a daily basis, so there's no commitment on their part. So if we put an end to it, we go back to the shuttle. It's beneficial for some customers, and they know that it's to the limit of our borders, and then that is still represent adjustments, changes for the people who are using public transport in that sector, and there'll be a loss of a frequency of the service of public transport on Champlain Street particularly, and that means that there'll be a need for transfer at the co-op. The last one, we can go back with the shuttle as it was before and maintain possibly a route 93A, possibly modified. This is just an idea, because it would seem that statistics show that we've had a success with a better frequency on Champlain Street. On the Champlain Street, the people who go to the college or to the industrial park, they like the double frequencies, specifically in the morning and at night. Some clients have talked to us about it. It seems to have been a success. So we could continue with something like this. We could even look with the shuttle at doing something that would link north and south, possibly the co-op and Fox Creek, for example, because there's a connection. We know that shuttle sometimes is being used on Dover to go to the industrial park, so that could maybe make things easier. We could use our resources just to do more with less, or at least with what we have. So that's something to think about. I'm just giving it to you so you can think about it. And finally, you see the challenges. We talked about the advantages, the challenges that financially we'd have to find things. If we decided to go with the increased capacity, maybe 12 or 20 passenger vehicle, that could be done in the future. If the demanding increases, obviously there'll be a certain delay for the purchase. So these are scenarios to think about it. We're trying to give you factual information because we know that soon you'll have decisions to make, and there's also other scenarios maybe that we haven't thought about, but obviously time is becoming scarce. So a little bit of a feedback from you tonight, if not tonight, some other time. Otherwise, then we'll be coming back to you with recommendations to staff on the 13th of May. Sorry, I kind of lost a lot of time on statistics, but I wanted to do that. Okay, thank you, Monsieur Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 93A. Majority of the people who were using 93A, were they using it for work, or were they using it? There was a rush hour in the morning, rush hour at night. I hear the comments. I've heard comments that it's not all people who would have taken 93A wanted it at 8 in the morning or at 7:30 in the morning, or go back to town and come back for dinner time. So the times could have been different. Maybe if we would have could we have had the service at different hours, different times? I don't know if it's workers who take the bus or not. We looked at the trips and the routes with the courier transport and the users. I mean, we have a certain budget also. It's not like we can send 93 all the time. But what we have to remember and not lose track of is that the shuttle was offered so people from the sector, or people who have to travel in the sector, had a public transport service offered to them for all bus trips that were offered, and that went to the limits of to the boundary of the municipality. I think it happened only once in 4 years where the driver had more than 6 passengers, and he had to call his partner, and they did it, and they didn't charge us more. So we can't lose sight of that. The service was offered for all trips. I think it's time to now look at our own service. Monsieur Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Statistics are very encouraging because they're increasing. I just wanted to talk about the capacity of the vehicle. Do we figure that we're going to have new buses, or the size of the buses? Good question. We're looking at purchasing smaller buses. Kodiak Transport has an RFP on. It's for smaller buses, or they're getting ready for that. When do you figure that we could have them? Depends on the federal, provincial funding. As you know now, it's kind of a gray zone because of the agreements between the governments. Thank you. Are there any questions? No other questions? So thank you, Monsieur Richard. There are more figures to analyze, but I do believe that it's a question of costs. It's an adventure that we've launched ourselves into openly. We launched approximately 6 months ago. There are a lot of figures to study in order to be able to make the best decision possible for our citizens, and also for members of council. If you have ideas, yeah, for the 23rd. Oh, the 13th of May. That's coming up very quickly. Yeah, we'll be preparing a recommendation soon. Thank you. Next presentation by Mr. Nadeau, who's going to be talking to us about our Uniplex. It's an update for members of council, and especially for all these beautiful people who have come to this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As promised, I'm back here to give you an update on the Uniplex. So once again, to really give you an idea of the Uniplex, there are 5 sectors. Sector 1 is the front of the building, 2 and the center, and 3 and part of the main ice on the right on College Street. The 4th is at the top, and the 5 is on the left. So it's the community ice rink. An update. First of all, I'm very happy to say that, like we say, we're on budget, on schedule, and that for a project manager, those are the 2 words that we want to hear from the beginning to the end. So things are going really well with the construction, even with the weather challenges. We're in a good position time-wise. So as you can see, the massive excavation is almost finished. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, we asked to have more parking. So there are, so we're talking about 200 to 300 parking spots. So obviously, we're going to be attacking that in the next couple of weeks.
The foundation of Sector 1 in the front, center, and the small rink is finished. We're at 50% of our objective with respect to the foundation, so that's good news. The foundation will continue in the next few days and weeks. The sanitary system has been installed. That's very important for the construction. And the basis of the parking is finished, except for the extra parking that was asked for just a few weeks ago. So we'll do that in the next few weeks. So here is the site. You don't often have a chance to see it because we're trying to hide it as much as possible. But we'll have a visit of the site soon. And the building is starting to take shape. Here you see the community rink. This was last week. The contour is just about finished. And you can see posts coming out of the earth. In the future, in the next 2 months, starting next week, for the residents, we'll be able to see the metallic structure that's more visible, and that will go quickly, like building a house. The foundation starts and, well, it goes a little bit more slowly, but starting next week, we hope to start the metallic structure as such. And of course, we're going to enlarge the parking area. And we'll continue with the foundation in Sector 3, which is the principal ice rink. We started last week, and we're going to continue, and hopefully we'll finish at the end of May with all the foundations, depending upon the temperature. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Le Boutillier, then Councillor Thibodeau. I have a question. People have asking me recently. I've seen the plans, but the walking spaces that'll be in zone 3. That is on top of the main skating rink. Will be on top of it. Compared to other buildings of this type, the walking trail principle is always within the inside and it's always open. Does that answer your question? Councillor Arsenault, I have a comment. I congratulate you because you're on time and within budget. That's incredible. And the foundation is already 50% completed. Exactly. It's wonderful. And there was no complications with the foundation, no cracks, nothing at all. We've had a lot of inspectors on the site, and we ensure on their side and ours too, with our consultants, that we're there almost 24 hours a day, at least 12 hours. So these problems would be recognized right away, and they're taken care of immediately. No other questions? We continue. That's wonderful. So we'll continue with this meeting. The next presentation will be the Arts and Culture Center. This is going to be a shared presentation. Mr. Godet. And Ms. Farah. Good evening, Mr. Godet, and all members, the board of directors of our beautiful cultural center. Good evening. Thank you for letting us coming tonight. I'm Madame Farah with the Arts and Culture Center, and Paulette Arsenault and José Turgeon are here with me tonight as well. I want to talk to you about the management of the center. You know it, of course, but it's always good to remember why it exists. It's a place where people can get together, and it's good for the cultural identity of the community and encourages creativity and presents artistic activities and culturally for people, for artists, institutions in our region. Our mandate includes visual arts, music, cinema, film, video, and literature. Varied cultures. We put the accent on culture and Acadian and Francophone programming, of course, development and presentation of our talents and professionals, and programming for a large group of ages, especially youth and families, as we do in Dieppe. I'm going to ask Luc to give us an outlook of what has happened during the last year. Good evening, councillors, your worship, city manager, and fellow citizens. At the center, we've had a very good year respecting development. We have an occupation rate which is always increasing, and more and more people have been coming these this past year. For statistics, we have the same people that are there renting. So we can offer a lot of services to Dieppe, and the center has become a turning point for arts and culture in Dieppe with all this collaboration. For example, the classic ballet has more than 400 students who are taking classes. Long and McQuaid Music School has more than 200 students, music classes, guitar, piano, and singing. The library Grandos and the book fair also allows us to have activities including literature. Radio as well is going well and reaches out to a large part of the population at our studios in the center. So we're very happy with all these partnerships. And we get reinforced year after year. The partnership at the beginning was had a lot of success for our center, and we have reinforced our partnerships that are there already, but we have developed more as well. This year, we are associated with La Paz, which is the linguistic policy and culture, which has 60 partners, and we were already very active on a lot of objectives, but for us it was natural to associate with them again this year, and it gives us much more potential for collaboration with all these partners within this policy. Respecting collaboration this year, that I'm very proud of, we have a collaboration with Lefebvre Monument. So this year we had a co-presentation. We had a show during the Hubcap Festival where we had Jacinthe, and it was sold out. And we even had an extra show which is sold out. So this was a show that we did with Monument Lefebvre. So there was a lot of clientele, diverse clientele, and we had two companies working together hand in hand on the same project, rather than being in competition with each other. So they were collaborating on the next project. We're going to co-present Sean Ferguson at Monument Lefebvre. So we hope that the public from our center will go to Monument Lefebvre, like they have come from Monument Lefebvre to our center to discover new activities, new events. So we're continuing next year with these partnerships. I'm not going to give you all our secrets of our programming. We're waiting till June. But this collaboration will continue next year. With respect to arts, music, our Christmas concert was sold out again this year. We had two shows by Jacinthe, which was very good, and we have Harmony for All, where we had the services of professional musicians who accompanied musical ensembles who perform in the schools, like the Dieppe schools. So we had composers who came with Acadian music from Mathieu Martin, and that was almost sold out for 2 shows. So we succeeded to find a nice niche in alternance. So we work with professional artists and with youth. With Harmony pour tous, we have musicals as well. So we alternate between both of these, so we see a good future for this project. And we reach a lot of youth within the community, and we discover a lot of new talent as well. We have more than 800 participants for this project this year. So all our actions revolve around 3 principles orientations in our action plan. 2016 to 2018 as the creation of partnerships in arts and culture, and development of workshops, different workshops in visual arts and for drama as well. With our art gallery, we still have exhibitions. We have a lot of variety in Dieppe here. We have professional artists in Atlantic region, and nationally or internationally as well. We have a new RFP that we sent out a couple weeks ago for new projects. Our last RFP, we had received about 660 proposals. So our gallery is very interesting for these professional artists. So our latest RFP has been open for a couple weeks, so we'll have a program for 2019 and 2020 then, and we'll have some good surprises for you in June. And our community exhibition is interesting as well. We have an atrium that we used for different groups that are active in the community, and we have received a lot of projects from schools, from Dieppe, Memram Cook, so we've had a lot of good community exhibitions. We've had workshops. We have training as well. We want to diversify what we offer. So we have a good initiatives for next season. We offer classes in drawing, pottery, painting, and for the summer, we want to offer sewing classes and culinary arts as well. There seems to be a demand for that as well. And I'll speak to you more about that in a few minutes. So we have had a good season, and we'll have a great one for next year. These projects include art for everyone and all for art. And you know this, we have 4 steps for this one. And it's very successful with projects like Harmonie pour tous, as I mentioned, and in visual arts as well. Culture trails, we worked with professional artists who gave workshops with students. And with Marie Lumière, we've had 600 students who came to our workshops, who created works of art that were installed at Rotary Park. So there was a lot of very good participation and philosophy on this project. And the comments we got from students were incredible. And our culture trail we're going to install in the spring, a work of art that was created by a professional artist, Guylaine Cyr, who worked with groups of students, more than 700 of them, to create this work of art, which we will install in the spring on the trail behind Uni. And now we're looking at what will follow. We have a project, Idea Culture for the future, that will lead to community projects of the same type. The programming committee that was created is very efficient and functional. For 2 years now, it's an advisory committee that helps manage projects And we have a lot of ideas coming from the board of directors and the committees, and it's working very well. So we're very proud. This next slide, we're talking about research and financing, which is quite a challenge. To give you a few ideas on financing, we appreciate the financing from the city of Dieppe. A lot of our projects need support from federal and provincial governments, so we have to identify sources of financing for our programming that Lucas explained. But we need to diverse our financing, so we created a finance committee, and we will meet for the first time this week. And I thank Daniel Alain, who accepted to sit on this committee, presided by José Tournois, and we hope to find other financing sources to continue our programming. One thing we wanted to check as well, as Luc mentioned, we want to do a strategic planning within the next weeks. We don't have much information, however, except for members that come to the center. We need to know what the population thinks of the center. So we ask for the support of the city of Dieppe, and we thank you for your support. And we have funds to do a survey that we did in February, and we have 159 people who answered this survey. We asked open questions, and it was very successful. I'll mention a few points. 59% of people who responded came 1 to 3 times to the center. That's a good indicator. So people come back to see us. 67% were francophone, and 37% were anglophone. So we have two types of clients. We noticed as well that 70% of responders agreed with the way people are welcomed. It's accessible, and people were interested in coming to see our show. So that's very positive. We must work harder on communications, however, and that will be a part of our strategic plan during the next few weeks. I would like to take a few minutes to talk about governments. As you know, the Center of Arts and Culture is managed by a team with a board of directors with Luc and employees. We have a board of 12 members. And as I mentioned, 2 members are here today. 2 have been just elected, Madame Paulin, Madame Egbert, and we welcome again Ernest Thibault on our team. And our board of directors is very active and implicated. We have a programming committee and finance committee, as well as our new governance committee. We wanted to ensure that we have the good practices for our management and projects. So we have put into place many policies this last year, and I want to thank Paulette Arsenault for her work. The center has a team of about 50 volunteers that are with us daily, and we appreciate them. We have a financial stability at the center thanks to the work of our executive director, and we thank the city of Dieppe for their support and the services they offer, be it installations at the center. And we're a major player with arts and culture in Dieppe, and we're going to continue our work to identify priorities in our next strategic plan. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Alain, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your leadership, Jean. Congratulations for your volunteering last week. It was wonderful having a gathering at the center to meet all the volunteers as well. With other broadcasters, we were talking about communications and creating partnerships. Is that going well? Can we, as council, go see other broadcasters and push them a bit so that they can cooperate better? We have cooperation with the Monument Lefebvre, which is ongoing for the next year. That's locally, and we're also working on evaluating the potential of partnerships with the Capitol Theatre. NIMET came a couple weeks ago. So we're exploring, and we have a network. We have new technology with the ticketing, so we have a new system. The former network will be rebaptized, so what we call the Greater Moncton. We'll call it the Network of Greater Dieppe, I hope. So the Capitol Theatre will be one of our members, the Théâtre Escaouette, Monument Lefebvre, Université de Moncton. So there's a lot of potential for partnerships, and this technology was adopted as well by the Access Network in the north of the province. So there's a lot of possibilities supported by this new technology. Globally, this year, 12 or 14 months, we have a consultation plan with the broadcasters. Officially, we have a file that I'm working on that is going to see daylight soon. We want to put into place people in the southeast of the province. We want to put them together. There will be some distinctions. And I was happy that Radar will be a leader in this, and they're going to manage this file. So there's about 40 broadcasters in this, and a lot of them are not always members, but it's a good opportunity for this network to grow and meet the needs of the regions. Eventually, once it's established, we'll be able to develop common strategies for promotion so that our events will grow and become tourist attractions as well. We don't want to see one broadcaster in competition with another. We don't want to give money to the center that's in evolution. So I want all our money to go into the best place possible. That's what's important. Thank you, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. I want to repeat what you said a while ago. Madame Farah, you have excellent leadership. You have a dynamic team and a great board of directors. And I think the center is improving and has a great image as being truly professional. And we see people that are going there, and they're so happy to be at the center. So congratulations. Excellent work. It's teamwork, of course. Thank you. If there are no other questions, thank you. It's very much appreciated. This evening we have the privilege to have a lot of people in the room. It's as if we have trapped you. I would like to mention the presence of our local deputy, Mr. Rocher Melançon. Welcome to council, and especially
welcome our minister, Mrs. Shepherd, Mrs. Dorothy Shepherd, and as Minister of Social Development and Inclusion, and offer you the microphone if you want to say a few words. We know you're here for a major event. You know, we're finally getting some recognition for all the work we've been doing with our seniors, and I'm sure they're right here to as a testament to that.
Merci. Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis très contente
thank you. I'm very happy to be here tonight.
to celebrate this wonderful achievement and congratulate you for all of your efforts that you've put forth. The Age-Friendly Community Recognition Program helps strengthen community supports for seniors. It encourages municipalities to invest in programs, policies, and infrastructure to respond to the needs of seniors. In an age-friendly community, seniors feel safe, valued, respected, and they engage in their community. Nearly 10 years ago, this community began pursuing its goal to achieve the designation of becoming age-friendly. Dieppe is now one of 9 communities in New Brunswick that has met all the criteria and surpassed the 4 milestones required for this recognition. I'm proud to say Dieppe was an early adopter of the age-friendly community philosophy. It was in 2010 that Dieppe first passed a resolution to become age-friendly. Your 2012 to 2017 action plan addressed real concerns for seniors in your community and created tangible solutions. Moving forward, Dieppe has had some terrific projects planned that I have no doubt will certainly improve the lives of seniors within your community. Thank you so much for all the work you have done. It has improved the quality of life for seniors and aging citizens in New Brunswick. Attaining the status of age-friendly community in New Brunswick also results in being recognized by the Public Health Agency of Canada. And your community will be invited to join the World Health Organization global network of age-friendly communities. The Government of New Brunswick is committed to improving the aging experience for seniors across this province. We know seniors want to stay comfortably in their own homes. By providing home supports to seniors, we're also able to address some of the healthcare challenges that we face as a province. By working collaboratively, we will be able to improve the aging experience for our population and increase overall wellness across New Brunswick. I understand there are 50 communities across New Brunswick.
Je comprends qu'il y a 50 communautés qui ont exprimé l'intérêt ou qui sont prêtes à devenir amies des aînés. Et il y a au moins 22 autres communautés au Nouveau-Brunswick qui ont terminé déjà 2 points de repère pour obtenir la reconnaissance.
We strongly encourage every community across New Brunswick to continue working towards the age-friendly recognition. I want to sincerely thank you for all of your efforts, for accepting the challenge, and for becoming an age-friendly community. I have a placard to present to you and wish you felicitations and merci.
Thank you so much.
This is a wonderful space. So nice. Yeah, I
Daniel.
I should say, it's so nice to see so many familiar, so many familiar faces. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Well, Madam Minister, thank you so much.
Madame Minister, merci.
Find
de cette
honorable place for it, without a doubt. It certainly looks very good. Must be Mathieu's work. I recognize that as Mathieu's work. He was well trained before we sent him to Fredericton. We trained him well. So, Mathieu, always a pleasure to see you as well. Certainement pour.
Surely, for the city of Dieppe, we can't be a community for aged people, but for everyone, not senior friendly only, but
friendly community to everybody. And I think that our growth over the past 25 years has shown that. We're very fortunate as a community to have a very well-balanced demographic of, with the major group of ages, about one-third, one-third, one-third. So it's a challenge in many ways, but it's an easier challenge than communities that have an imbalance in terms of demographics. So c'est un défi d'avoir.
So it's a challenge to have this mix, but it's a good mix concerning the different age groups. It's a challenge to serve all age groups, but it's a challenge that is much easier to manage than in other communities where there's unbalance.
With this group, we're up to the challenge. So just watch us go, or keep going, I should say. So, je crois que ça met fin.
I think that puts an end to our meeting today. Oh, good evening. Good evening, Madam President. It's finally our big day after 11 years of work. On behalf of seniors from Dieppe, we're happy to see Dieppe receive this recognition. In 2011, it started by the mayor. The people of the seniors were part of the steps to become a community that would be senior-friendly. Having staff, the agent, Gabriel Maillet, had become the liaison with the committee. Our mission to promote the quality of life of all seniors in Dieppe, as well as to protect their rights and their interests. The committee sees itself being more active. There are a couple of activities and events that have been organized in collaboration with our committee and the city of Dieppe. We organize together annually the International Day of Seniors that is celebrated on the 1st of October. Furthermore, the committee presented this year the St. Valentine's Tea. One of the objectives was to bring people together to counteract isolation, something to do again next year, a real success. The city of Dieppe, with its participative budget, with a tricycle that transports people. It's a good initiative, and our committee is part of the partners. We will see this summer people travel on these tricycles ridden by students to be able to see the different sections, beautiful sections of our city. The city of Dieppe, under the direction of Pauline Cormier, manager, recently has written a family policy to integrate seniors, and a member of our committee was part of that, accepted by the municipality and by the Municipal Council in February 2019. This policy is a guide to the municipality in its decisions concerning subjects that can have impact on the quality of life and the well-being of families. The committee is a reference for the city of Dieppe to know the pulse of its citizens. With a representation of 26% of the total population, the seniors clientele is very present in Dieppe. Since our inception, the committee has had 2 action plans. Among the objectives, we're very happy to announce that we're working presently collecting information on all services and activities available to the seniors of the municipality. This document will be very useful for seniors who live currently in Dieppe, but also for seniors who will be coming to Dieppe. And what to say about this new Uniplex Center, intergenerational center, The committee has many ideas for new programs and activities. We wanted to be the meeting point on a daily basis for our seniors. A couple of intergenerational activities will be an asset for Dieppe. On behalf of the seniors of Dieppe, I wish to thank Gabriel Mallet for all these years of accompaniment, and Annie Béliveau, who over 2 years is our new liaison to the committee. Thank you to the municipality of Dieppe for supporting our committee. We are here today in front of the accomplished facts. We are recognized now as an age-friendly municipality. Thank you very much. Thank you. I was told to add at the end that after the meeting, there's a beautiful reception in the reception hall, and everyone is invited, and it is offered by the Department of Social Development. Thank you very much. So I would like to ask maybe to all the members of the committee of seniors to come forward so that we can take a picture with Madam Minister to commemorate this moment or celebrate this moment. If you want to come forward, please.
Oui, moi j'aime assez ça, je vois le cachette, tu fais pas savoir.
Je suis convaincu qu'il va falloir se tasser dans les petits calignées.
Tiens, regarde, il y en a un grand ici, je fais.
Ok, Jean-Claude, là, on prend sa photo.
Ah, je peux pas.
C'est le fun d'être quoi? Oh, tu vas pas faire ça,
Comme ça, moi, je vais me mettre en arrière. C'est plus facile pour moi. Collez-vous.
Ah, ça me dérange pas pantoute de me cacher la face.
Une qu'on ne voit pas en arrière, là.
Madame qu'on voit pas.
Oui, là, c'est mieux. Francis, montre ta face.
Montrez les dents en
Montre ta
haut.
face.
Hey!
1, 2, 3.
Sexe! Qu'est-ce que c'est qui a fait de la graphisme?
Ah, c'est Mathieu?
C'est-tu Mathieu?
Ça doit être le même.
C'est toi qui as fait de la graphisme?
Ça doit être le même pour toutes les
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Beau, hein?
Oui, c'est beau. On va l'amener à l'extérieur. On va lui trouver une place à l'extérieur pour le moment. Alors, tout le monde est bienvenu à l'extérieur pour commencer la célébration.
So everyone is welcome outside to start the festivities.
Monsieur Pouillet bien?
Tu veux bien nous trouver?